Aloha mai kako, a Como Mai to Curtain Call, a program of reviews, previews, interviews, and features of and or with the great art and artists on Maui and beyond. I'm Paul James Brown. 11 years ago, David Johnston, the Executive Artistic Director of Maui Academy of Performing Arts, suggested after the late Jonathan Lehman and Tom Althouse did a memorable production of Greater Tuna at Pro Arts Playhouse that one of our finest actors and singers, Francis Tauʻa, and his lifelong friend Derek Nakagawa, who has been on stage all his life, should write an island-style show in a similar vein. Two actors playing all the parts, and they came up with Lesser Ahi. It played at the old Stepping Stone Playhouse. About that production I said, quote, "It's wonderful to watch these two consummate performers work together. They mesh like the gears of a Ferrari or a Porsche, perfectly, and as the revs get higher and higher, they raise the stakes, each one topping the other." Mr. Tauʻa does most of the women, and Mr. Nakagawa plays the more difficult straight man roles, where Mr. Tauʻa has outrageous mu'umus and wigs to help create his characters. Mr. Nakagawa only has the change of a t-shirt to tell us who he is. It is subtlety at its finest. Their repartee is as quick and sharp as Nadal and Djokovic slamming the ball at each other on the tennis court. The play moves along at breakneck pace. Each scene we meet new characters and the plot thickens, unquote. The only resemblance to Greater Tuna that Lesser Ahi had is a title that reminded one of the other, and the fact that two male actors played all the parts, and both were hilarious from start to finish. Lesser Ahi was about the estrangement of two fraternal twins, the coming nuptials of one of the brothers, and the machinations of their family and friends to get them to reconcile in time for the wedding. In the course of the play, we met mother, father, tutu, girlfriend, father of the bride, crazy uncle, wacky spaced out cousin, an aunt in heat, and the two brothers, Andrew and Andon. Lesser Ahi was such a success that they decided to do a second installment and then a trilogy. The second installment was called Fresher Ahi. For this episode, they added another actor to the Ahi duo of Mr. Tauʻa and Mr. Nakagawa to spice up the proceedings, and I reported at that time that Kathy Collins stole the show. Ms. Collins plays 6 characters: Ilona, Daddy, Alan's Mr. Nakagawa's high school sweetheart, who is bound and determined to get him back; Jeanette, a nervous Chinese shop girl enamored of Jesse; Jody, a gender illusionist; Roland, a bang bang macadang, a jealous macho kickboxer who dominates Bernadette, Mr. Nakagawa, and believes Monty, Mr. Tauʻa, is his rival; Melinda, Aiden's bored Brit wife, and my favorite, ancient auntie to Uncle Chin, Mr. Tauʻa. Altogether, we meet 16 characters, 6 played by Mr. Tauʻa, 6 by Ms. Collins, and 4 created by Mr. Nakagawa. In the first Ahi installment, the occasion was Andon's wedding. In Fresher, the occasion was proposed double christening for brothers Andrew and Andon's babies. Most of the action in Fresher Ahi centered around a couple of triangles. Collins Ilona, as an indefatigable suitor who openly in front of Mommy attempts to seduce Daddy. The other triangle is between Roland, Bernadette, and Monty, Andon's very nervous father-in-law. Fast forward to 2 years ago, and the trilogy had yet to be written. Mr. Johnston gathered the actors together to write the third play, and they realized, why not combine Lesser and Fresher into 2 acts and use them as a jumping-off point for the Ahi Wrap Carport Theater revival. And that's what they have done. They were ready to present it last August, and then Omicron arrived. MAPPA is presenting Ahi Wrap, the Carport Theater Festival, at the historic Iao Theater with the cooperation and assistance of Maui on Stage and Pro Arts Playhouse. Part 1 is a streamlined Lesser and Fresher. Then Part 2 picks up where the new Part 1 left off. The major incident in Part 2 is the effort to reconcile Mommy and Daddy, who have separated due to the competition between Ilona and Mommy, and the death of Andon's dog, which is the spark for the joke in the second act of Part 2, which I will not give away. You'll have to go and see the show. Let's just say this act explores all of the nuances of gone. The key to the Ahi series is the familiarity of these characters. We all know them. They are our friends, family, or acquaintances. We bumped into them at Longs, Afuks, Hanzawas, or Moriharas. All of them are memorable. My favorite and the funniest character in the show is Mr. Tauʻa's creation of Uncle Chin, a thoroughly delightful character whose gait is as slow as a tortoise and delicate as a ballet dancer, and whose speech is completely unintelligible. But believe it or not, no one has any trouble understanding what he is saying and doing. Everyone on Maui knows an Uncle Chin. His Monty, Andon's Oxford music professor father-in-law, was quite sympathetic and lovable in a bumbling, clueless sort of way. Ms. Collins is most successful in creating truly different characters. She physically transforms herself for each character with a different voice pattern, stance, and being. Mr. Nakagawa does Three Men and Bernadette. I thought his best moments were as Alan, the father of Andrew and Andon. His heartfelt monologue in the church in Act 2 of the Part 2 was a beautiful moment. One of the key elements of the show are the costumes. They have to define the characters immediately and be able to be gotten into rapidly. In the creation of these 16 distinct characters, costume designer extraordinaire Kathleen Schultz gets as much credit as the actors. There are 107 of them that are worn and a dress shop full of rolling garment racks. All of the actors look great, and I am certain these looks contribute considerably to the success of these characters. A show where a few actors play many characters requires great coordination and exceptional dressers. I often think that it would be even more interesting to do like Noises Off and show the backstage as well as what is happening on stage. Kudos to the production manager, Hoku Pavao, and the dressers, Lance Gray, Tina Kalaponi, who was also the stage manager. How did she do that? And Marcy Smith. In the two plays, there are 27 scenes in 4 acts. Maui's Renaissance woman, Allie Shore, was not only the scenic designer, but she was also responsible for the projection design. To solve the problem of the number of scenic changes this play required, they built a turntable, and Ms. Shore designed and rigged video projection screens that set the scenes. This allowed for the kind of set changes Mr. Johnston is known for: fast, effortless, and effective. It is so great to have Mr. Johnston back doing what he does best, at creating wonderful, entertaining, and transformative theater. Ahi Wrap, the Carport Theatrical Festival, is an homage to the decade-old productions. It has kept all that was good and memorable from the first ones, and then gone further with Part 2. They are a fun theatrical experience, and although each of these plays stand on their own, to get the whole tuna, as it were, take them both in. Part 1 plays February 11th at 7:30 p.m. and February 12th at 3 p.m., and Part 2 plays the 12th at 7:30 p.m. and the 13th at 3 p.m. COVID protocols are in force. Be sure to have your full vaccination card and ID with you. All patrons are required to remain masked for the entire performance. Tickets are available at www.mauiacademy.org. Don't miss them. Well, that's Curtain Call for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Paul James Brown. Ahui ho!